Assistant Secretary of the Army, Lee Forsgren, Department of Environmental Protection Secretary Alexis Lambert, Everglades Trust CEO Anna Upton, and then we've got a number of folks from the South Florida Water Management District, Executive Director Drew Bartlett. We've got a number of our board members, Bergeron, Roman, maybe Ben Butler, is he here? I know he's tentative. Oh, there he is. We got Bonefish and Tarpon Trust Vice President Kelly Ralston, and it's an honor to be here today. We've just had earlier this week the ribbon cutting for the C-43 reservoir, which is something that a lot of people have done. And when I was there with the ribbon cutting, I made the remarks that there were a lot of folks in Southwest Florida in 2018 who were seeing the damage that was inflicted from some of the discharges that were done by the U.S. Army Corps from Lake Okeechobee into the Caloosahatchee and out onto the coast, and I think it exacerbated red tide. I think it had a lot of problems, and so you had a really difficult rainy season, difficult summer financially, tourism, but then also just people's quality of life, being able to do what they wanted to do. And so we knew, and when I took office the next year, this was during the first Trump administration, we did work with the Army Corps at the President's direction, and they managed the lake, I think, in a more balanced way that mitigated just with that, which was important, and I want to thank them for doing that. But we knew we had to improve the infrastructure so that issue would go away. And so the C-43 reservoir is a 10,000-acre, 55 billion gallon storage site that's going to protect the Caloosahatchee estuary from harmful discharges. It will also provide strategic water flow to support Southwest Florida's environment and economy. And during the dry season, a lot of times they want water to be released, clean water, but they do want water to be released. And so this will be able to fit that bill very good. So this C-43 project is fully operational. It's got a state-of-the-art pump station capable of moving 650,000 gallons of water per minute. A testament to what we can achieve when Florida takes the lead. And while the C-43 is a major milestone for Southwest Florida, it's one of just a broader restoration effort that includes major projects such as the EAA Reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee. And of course, we did the C-44 Reservoir east of Lake Okeechobee many years ago. So since 2019, we have completed or made substantial progress on more than 75 Everglades restoration projects. So that's a lot of what we've done, like the Old Tamiami Trail roadbed removal project, which we did 6 months ahead of schedule, and some of the other major things that we've done has been designed to increase the water flow from Lake Okeechobee down through the Florida Everglades to Florida Bay. That's initially how Florida's plumbing worked, and then man intervened and did things that basically clogged that. And so you can see, like I brought, this is just the average over the last 3 years compared to where we were. That's basically the hydrology. The blue stuff is the water flow. So look where we were, from the beginning of the century, 20 years, and what we've done the last 3 or 4 years. That's massive hydration flows. And so you see that, and that's something that's very, very important. If you look at what all these projects have done since 2019, the investments that we've made at the state level have reduced harmful nutrients in South Florida's waterways by 727,000 pounds per year of nitrogen and almost 500,000 pounds per year of phosphorus. So these projects and other investments have brought our cumulative annual nutrient removal efforts in the state of Florida to over 1.8 million pounds of nitrogen and almost 775,000 pounds of phosphorus removed each and every year. We've also made major progress on the Everglades Agricultural Area Reservoir by completing the state-funded stormwater treatment area to clean the water from the EAA Reservoir before it heads into Everglades National Park, and that's part of what's allowed expedite the completion of the EAA Reservoir. So what this means is that there'll be projects in the EAA that will be completed by the state of Florida on behalf of the Army Corps. It will be using the allocated federal funds, and it will allow us to accelerate the commitment and the investment in the project to ensure that we're not waiting until 2034, that actually we're going to get it done 5 years earlier in 2029. And so that is a big, big difference in terms of what we're doing. And the good thing is this project is authorized, it's funded, it's under construction. The Corps is obviously doing some parts of it. There are certain things that haven't started yet that we're going to be able to come in and really drive on that. This is not something that I think a lot of people thought was possible 10 years ago. It seemed like a lot of this stuff was running in place. There wasn't a lot of momentum behind a lot of these projects, and now here we are. So this new agreement, the Army Corps will agree to accelerate necessary federal funding and expedite the construction completion from 2034 to 2029. We are now, as the state, granted authority to construct the inflow and outflow pump stations and other auxiliary features of the EAA Reservoir, allowing the Army Corps to fully focus on the main reservoir basin. The agreement also allows Florida to provide support to the ongoing construction of the main basin and step in if those vendors don't get the job done. Florida will also take the construction of the Blue Shanty Flowway, which will fully carry new clean water south from the reservoir, across obstacles like the Tamiami Trail and all the way to Florida Bay. The Army Corps will expedite permits, removing red tape, and authorizing Florida to manage future SERP projects on their behalf. And so in just a few minutes, I will be joined by Assistant Secretary Forstgren to sign a memorandum of agreement expanding and advancing the restoration of America's Everglades. And once we sign that, it will be official. So this is a really, really big deal. I mean, we've had so many people throughout the state that have worked hard on this. The progress and the results have been fantastic, particularly with state leadership on these things. But we have a great partner with the Trump administration and the Department of the Army, where we're working together and we're maximizing the resources and the abilities that each of us bring to the table. So I'm really, really excited about this. I think that people are going to be very pleased to see the accelerated progress. I know our guys are ready to go. I think we're going to start bidding out those projects for the pump stations really almost as soon as the ink is dry. We're going to get that moving and go forward because that's what we expect and that's what we want to do. And the proof's in the pudding. I mean, if you look at the salinity levels in Florida Bay today, and you compare those to what they were 6 or 7 years ago, there's been a market improvement and a big improvement there. And there's been improvements in many of the other areas as well. So this is a massive effort. This is something that people have been working on for a long time. There have been a lot of folks that have been involved in completing all the projects we've completed: South Florida Water Management District, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Army Corps, all these folks that have been involved. We've also gotten great support from the Florida legislature. When I first became governor, we said, hey,
accelerate the rehydration of the Everglades and Florida Bay. Like I said, the governor has already articulated all the numbers. But I will say, we are firmly, the president has said to the governors directly, and then it was that commitment to this Everglades restoration effort, as demonstrated by the president's budget in FY26, which has had the Everglades ecosystem as by far the largest construction element in the Army Corps budget. And the president has demonstrated, and I've heard personally, that commitment. And we are full-blown looking forward to working with the state of Florida, the South Florida Water Management District, to accelerate the overall effort, but in particular with a focus on the EAA Reservoir, and we are firmly committed to trying to find ways that we finish this project construction by 2029. And with that, I cannot wait to sign.
Tuesday, I was excited to join Governor DeSantis and many of you in this room today as we celebrated the completion of the C-43 reservoir. Throughout the week, we've gathered here with our partners at the 39th Annual Environmental Permitting Summer School to share ideas and continue advancing our mission to protect Florida's environment while supporting our business community and our economy. And now, I'm thrilled to culminate the week with the inking of this agreement that will usher in a new era in Everglades restoration. Floridians understand the Everglades better than anyone else. We live, work, and recreate here, and we are committed to the land and the water that sustains this. We have the experience, the urgency, and the determination to get the job done. Florida has proven it can manage restoration projects efficiently, saving both time and money. We appreciate our federal partnership, and while the structure of this partnership is evolving with the inking of this MOU, our goal remains aligned, restoring America's Everglades. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership and your unwavering commitment to Everglades restoration.
Good morning. I'm Anna Upton. I'm the CEO of the Everglades Trust. What a great week we've had for Everglades restoration. Earlier this week, we cut the ribbon on C-43 reservoir, and with today's announcement, we are one step closer to the crown jewel of Everglades restoration, the EAA Reservoir, becoming a reality. Governor DeSantis has been laser focused on sending more water south to the Everglades, all the way down to Florida Bay, and helping reduce those harmful discharges to our coastal estuaries. And the EAA Reservoir does both. And we are so excited about strengthening this collaboration between the state and federal government to deliver results sooner for Floridians and America's Everglades. President Teddy Roosevelt once said the credit belongs to the man in the arena, to the one who strives valiantly and dares greatly. Governor DeSantis, that's exactly what you are doing here today, and on behalf of America's Everglades, we thank you.
People want to come up. I know some folks are going to be in flank us, and we'll make it official.
Yeah, down in front.
All right, we got everyone up here. Okay, so today's date is what?
Down in front, please.
All right, there you go. Show off our handiwork there. There we go. I think this is a really big deal. This is something that we've had vision for many, many years, and I want to thank the President for authorizing this and telling everyone to get it done. I want to thank the Department of the Army for their really positive relationship that they've built with the state of Florida. Thanks to our Department of Environmental Protection and the South Florida Water Management District for really working hard. So we've got a great pathway here to make real significant progress much quicker than we did at this time last year. And so now it's like we always do, we got to get it done. So we will be doing that and working very hard going forward. Okay, is there any questions? Media. Yes, sir.
Matt Wood with Fox News. Some internal emails suggest that Collier County officials were blindsided by the construction of Alligator Alcatraz, which you mentioned today. While it's clear the state had legal authority under its emergency powers, do you believe your administration did enough to properly inform local officials about what is essentially going up in their backyard?
My administration had a job to do, and they did it. And they didn't twiddle their thumbs. They didn't sit on their hands. They constructed a processing and deportation facility in a week. How many other places, other states would have been able to get that done? So they were mission focused. They did it. I think that they didn't want to be in a situation where they were delaying. They wanted to get the job done, and the job is getting done. And so you've already now had folks that are processing. You've had folks that have been deported from that place, and I anticipate as we get into next week, I think you're going to see that pace increase. So it's going to prove to be a value-added and effective tool. And you got folks that are here illegally, and we need to make sure that we're enforcing the law. So that's a huge, huge benefit and a huge way to help the Trump administration's efforts in that regard. And our guys did a very, very good job of standing it up and standing it up very quickly. Yes, sir.
Hold on, Wake News. What metrics is the state going to be measuring potential and future damages to the water quality in the Everglades, if there is any? And how will the state know when they are damaging, if they are damaging any of the water quality? What would the response be?
Well, I don't think the EAA Reservoir is going to damage the water. I think it's going to improve the water flow. That's just what you have to do. Now, they're obviously building the reservoir, but I don't think that building the reservoir is going to cause problems. And obviously, they treat everything well. But when you improve, so just when we did the Tamiami Trail, I mean, massive amounts of water now can go all the way south. That will be finished all the way up to the Dade-Collier line. Then when you have these pump stations, you'll have a pump station for inflow, pump station for outflow. The reservoir completed, it's going to be able to store a lot of water. You're going to be able to clean it. You're going to be able to send it south. So, yeah, there's not going to be any damage. I think what we look at is this flow that I showed you. That is how the Everglades used to function prior to. I mean, it's just like, you've heard the song Seminole Wind. They talk about how, man kind of came in and changed things. And there were reasons for that. It wasn't like they were trying to be harmful. I think that they were responding to flood threats and some other things that had happened. And obviously the state was moving forward from some of that. But the reality is when you're restoring that flow, that's going to be very positive. And not only will they clean water send it, but the Everglades is a natural filtration system as well. So by the time it gets to Florida Bay, that's part of the reason the salinity has gotten better. It's been really, really good. The C-43 reservoir, I know a lot of people in Southwest Florida have been waiting for that. If we had had that in place in 2018, you would have obviated a lot of the damage that was done with those discharges, no question. You probably wouldn't have had any discharges in 2018 had that project been completed back then. So now you're in a much better spot. And we used to, when I first became governor, it's like we're like watching Lake Okeechobee, and we don't control it. The Army Corps, once it gets to a certain height, their mission is don't let it flood the surrounding areas. So once it gets to a certain height, they're going to discharge the water because that's what they're charged to do. So we're like watching it, like how do you do? And then now that you have the infrastructure in, a lot less worry about discharges because those water will be put in the reservoir. You'll be able to clean it. It'll be able to go, and everyone will be happy. So it's a major, major thing. And, the C44 reservoir on the eastern side of Lake Okeechobee, we did that very good. I know we've had some issues, working with the Corps in the past on that. I think we'll probably be fine going forward. C43 is great. I mean, it's massive. For those of you who were out there, I mean, it's amazing. I think they said you could fit like 10 of our universities in that reservoir. Like, I mean, seriously, all their campuses would fit on that. So that's, I think, what Florida, and part of it is, yes, we want to make sure that we're increasing the water flow south, and restoring the natural ecosystem. But, our coastal residents, when that stuff gets discharged, if it's not clean water, it gets in there, it creates a lot of problems in the canals, it creates problems for fishing, creates problems for other recreation, it creates problems for tourism. So it's a really big deal. So none of the stuff that we're going to be doing with the Army Corps is going to hinder that. It's going to be a big benefit to that for sure. Yes.
Kyle Foster, USA Today Network, Florida. We talk about alligator Alcatraz, and it's been said it's temporary. So the question is, when we're talking about environment, about the possibility that it would harm Big Cypress National Preserve.
That's not true.
And you said it's not true, but you said it's temporary as well. So when's it going to be packed up and sent out of there so that it doesn't harm the area?
Well, it's not going to. This is an existing airport. It's existing concrete. They're not doing anything outside of that footprint, and they have a lot of great plans for how they handle everything that happens, and so that's just not an issue. But it's temporary because the reason why we're doing it is because DHS does not have enough space to process, detain, and then deport the aliens, the illegal aliens that are being apprehended, not just in Florida, but throughout the country. There's a chronic shortage of space to be able to do it. A lot of people in the media will say, well, they're not getting due process. No, the whole reason why you have these things put up is because there is a process that the federal government has to go through. I can tell you a lot of other countries would never go through any of this process. So they're doing that. So they now have an influx of cash, and so they're going to be increasing their ability to be able to do it. So look, what I would prefer as governor is, yes, we're going to be working. All law enforcement agencies in Florida are required to work with DHS to enforce immigration law and assist with deportations. But I would love for that to be our guys are out on task force, our highway patrol are picking people up, we're doing what needs to be, and then turn over to DHS, and then they handle everything from there. From a governor's perspective, I would much rather that be the case. The reality is, after 4 years of Biden really decimating ICE and DHS, they don't have near the resources that they need. And so the number one thing when we would talk to people like Tom Homan, okay, what do we need to do? Because, the border was great to shut down, but the interior enforcement, it's hard to get that going. What do you need? Well, we want cooperation, but we also want to be able to have space. So we can't use all of our jails in Florida for this because we actually have criminal, U.S. citizen criminals that have to be held accountable. And that's the main focus of that. That's a criminal justice system. That's different than immigration enforcement. So we've expanded this. We also have grant money from the bill I signed earlier where sheriffs and police can do some expansion on their own if they want to. And I think you're going to see some that are going to do that. We're going to be processing some of this soon. But the reality is if DHS had the money a year ago that they have now, they probably would have enough capacity to be able to process the number of people that are being. But we're doing just in Florida. You have hundreds of illegal aliens apprehended a day potentially. You could potentially do even more than that based on what the mission set is. So, but we're on the team. We think the mission needs to be completed. We think it'll be good for Florida if you have legal workforce. You don't have people that aren't authorized to be here using schools, using healthcare, using some of these things that do put a stress on the state. So I think it's going to be good. But yes, if DHS gets to a point where they're able to handle this, then clearly, that's their core responsibility. So we'll do it. But I know they're not ready yet. I hope they'll be ready relatively soon. But that's why we did it, because they do not have the capacity to be able to process these illegal aliens and put them for an easy deportation. One thing I will say about alligator Alcatraz, because I think, look, the Democratic Party in Florida, such that it exists, it really struggles to get traction on anything because they don't offer anything to people here to make their lives better, and so they think doing this, like trying to say like they're not getting fed or all this stuff, they think that's effective. I mean, people know any media that amplifies that is doing a false narrative. I think people get that. But the interesting thing about this, what I don't hear people talking about, if somebody's here illegally and DHS sends them to alligator Alcatraz, when they get processed, the first thing that happens is they are offered an all-expense-paid trip back to their home country. You never have to go to alligator Alcatraz as an illegal alien if you can take that plane ticket and you go, and DHS is picking up the cost of that. And so I don't hear that being mentioned that that's the case. So I think some have availed themselves of that, but more could avail themselves of that. And I'm hoping that they do, just because even though the federal government's picking up the tab for that, it ends up being cheaper than having to run through the process that we have in place. Yes?
Hi, good morning, Governor. My name is Alexandra Martinez. I'm with PRISM. And my question for you is, we talked about the environmental impacts. Are there any reviews being done to safeguard the impacts of alligator Alcatraz on the Everglades, given your administration's commitment to environmental responsibility?
Well, if you go on there, it's a facility. There's concrete. There's like a fence line, and they're doing the operations. They take the wastewater out and they truck it out. They bring in potable water, and that's just how they manage it. So there's not anything that's going on that is going to be impactful in any type of significant way. And that obviously, the fact that they had this facility there, or the runway and everything there, was the reason why we did it. We would not have created this out of whole cloth, but it's there. It's a one-stop shop, and you're going to be able to do it. So I think people, just assert things or try to say things that just aren't factually the case. So no, we're not worried about it at all. That was the first thing when this was proposed by, I think it was, initially proposed by DEM, but I think the DHS really liked it. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean for this? And they're like, no, it's not gonna mean anything. And they're literally only operating on the existing footprint, because there's like grass in the middle of the airport. They're not even using that. They're just using that, and someone's like, I took a satellite image, you did that. They were on this patch of grass. No, it was like grass had grown over the concrete, so they just cleared it off and they used the guy. Like literally, they're on the existing footprint of what had been there, and they're doing it very well. Another thing I hear about is they're complaining about the food. First of all, I can tell you, like, when I was deployed in Iraq, and I bet you every veteran deployed will say, sometimes you're not getting very good food in certain situations. That's just the reality. But on this, the food that the illegal aliens get is the same food that all the workers get who are there. So there's no difference in any of that. And, they're saying all this, and then you see the pictures of Kevin Guthrie taking them on taking the Congress and the state reps on this tour, and you see all these, box lunches sitting there. Well, that's not what they were saying. So, a lot of it is just they're really, really struggling to be able to. But ultimately, what underlies all of that, a lot of corporate media, but certainly the liberal Democrats, they just don't believe that the federal government has a right to send these people home who are here illegally. They believe in an open border. They believe you come illegally, and somehow you have, I don't know if it's like squatters' rights, where they can't send you, and that doesn't fly anywhere else in the world, and it shouldn't fly here. But that's what's underlying all this. They just object to the border being shut. They object to illegal aliens being removed from the United States. And so they're trying to find pretext to basically camouflage the fact that they have a very unpopular position. Because I think most people realize you can't be a country and just have no control over your borders, have tens of millions of people coming in outside the confines of the law. And that, I think, is underlying a lot of why people are trying